You are one decision away from a completely different life. Not 1 year of hard work, not one perfect opportunity falling into your lap. One decision. Right now, tonight. The problem is, it's not going to feel good when you make it. It's going to feel uncertain. It's going to feel like standing at the edge of something you can't see the bottom of. And every voice in your head is going to tell you to step back, play it safe, wait for a better moment that is never ever coming. But here's what nobody tells you at the beginning of the story. Every single person you admire, every entrepreneur, every athlete, every artist, every ordinary person who built an extraordinary life, they all had a moment. A quiet, terrifying, completely unglamorous moment where they had to choose between the life they knew and the life they were capable of. And they chose the hard thing. That is why you're watching this. Because somewhere, buried beneath the exhaustion and the doubt and the noise of everyday life, you know it too. You know there's a choice waiting for you. And you know it isn't going to make itself. Let's talk about where most people are stuck and why they stay there. There's a feeling you know well. It's not misery, exactly. It's not rock bottom. It's something quieter and more insidious than that. It's the feeling of knowing you are capable of more whilst doing nothing about it. It's Sunday evening, and the week ahead feels identical to the one that just ended. It's the business idea you've been sitting on for 3 years. The conversation you keep rehearsing in your head but never have. The version of yourself you can picture vividly and visit less and less. Psychologists call it the comfort zone, but comfort is the wrong word. Comfortable doesn't mean content. Comfortable means familiar. And we will endure an enormous amount of quiet suffering simply to stay inside what is familiar. Here's the brutal truth. The cage isn't locked. It never was. Winston Churchill said it plainly. Fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision. Fear happens to you. Courage is something you choose. And the gap between those two things, that gap is where your life is either built or abandoned. The people who stay stuck aren't stupid. They aren't weak. They are simply waiting for a sign that the risk is worth it before they take the risk. But that sign never comes. It cannot come because the evidence that a hard choice was the right one only appears after you've made it. Let's dismantle a myth that has kept more people small than any external obstacle ever could. The myth is this: that successful people succeeded because the right doors opened for them, because they had the right contacts, the right background, the right timing, the right luck. Look closer. Jeff Bezos was working a comfortable, well-paid job on Wall Street when he decided to leave it all behind to sell books on the internet. By every rational measure, it was a foolish idea. His own boss tried to talk him out of it, but Bezos had already run his own calculation. He later said, "I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying." That is the architecture of every big win. Not luck, not talent handed down from the heavens. A choice made in the face of doubt to try the thing that might not work. J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on benefits in Edinburgh, writing in cafes while her daughter slept in a pram beside her. She wasn't waiting for her circumstances to improve before she started. She started in the middle of the hardest chapter of her life. 12 publishers rejected Harry Potter. 12. The 13th changed literary history, but not because of the 13th, because of the decision Rowling made long before any publisher ever said yes. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he built. publicly, humiliatingly. And then he chose to start again. He later described it as the best thing that ever happened to him. Not because it felt that way at the time, but because it freed him. As Jobs himself reflected, your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Do you see the pattern? The win was never the starting point. The hard choice was. Here's what nobody photographs. Nobody puts this in the motivational highlight reel. The hard choice feels like grief before it feels like freedom. It feels like walking away from certainty. And for a while, you won't know if you made a mistake. You'll question yourself at 3 a.m. You'll compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel and wonder what you were thinking. That feeling is not a warning sign. That feeling is the price of admission. Tony Robbins said, a real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken a new action. If there's no action, you haven't truly decided. Chew on that. Because most of us have made the decision in our minds 100 times. We've rehearsed the version of ourselves who took the leap. We've imagined the outcome. And then we've gone to bed and woken up and not done it. That isn't a decision. That is a fantasy. The hard choice becomes real the moment you act. When you send the email, have the conversation, hand in the notice, start the thing, stop the thing, say the word you've been swallowing for years. The moment your action changes your reality, that is when the choice has been made. Everything before that is just thinking about it. Caroline Myss put it with striking clarity. Always go with the choice that scares you the most, because that's the one that is going to help you grow. Not the comfortable choice, not the applauded choice, the one that makes your hands shake a little. That one. Here is a thought that I want to leave in your chest like a slow burning coal. Avoiding a hard choice is itself a choice, and it carries consequences just as real as any other. When you delay, life does not wait. The version of you who never started that business, never left that situation, never had that conversation, that version is being built right now, brick by every day you choose the path of least resistance. Inaction is a decision. Silence is a decision. Waiting for the perfect moment that will never arrive, that is a decision. Nelson Mandela, a man who knew more about hard choices than most of us can fathom, said, "May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears." Read that again. Your hopes, not your fears. Because here is the quiet tragedy that plays out in millions of lives. People make their biggest decisions from a place of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of what people will think. Fear of being wrong. And so they choose accordingly. Small, defended, careful. And they spend the rest of their lives wondering what would have happened if they hadn't. You don't have to be one of those people. You are watching this right now, which means something in you is still alive, still restless, still reaching for something more than this. That restlessness is not a flaw. It is a signal. I want you to picture something. Picture the version of you who made the hard choice. Not immediately after, not in the messy, uncertain middle, but 2 years later, 5 years later. Picture that person in the way they carry themselves, the steadiness behind their eyes, the particular kind of calm that comes not from having an easy life, but from knowing they showed up for themselves when it was hard to. That person isn't lucky. They're not exceptional in ways you aren't. They simply stopped waiting and started. Vince Lombardi once said, "The difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of will. Will, not genius, not perfect conditions. Will, that quiet daily decision to keep going, even when nothing is guaranteed. And here's the gift that nobody talks about. The hard choice doesn't just change your outcomes, it changes you. Every time you choose the harder, truer thing, you become someone who can choose it again. You build a relationship with yourself based on trust. You learn that you can be counted on by you, the most important person in the room. Jeff Bezos said it beautifully. Be proud not of your gifts, but of your choices. You cannot really be proud of your gifts because they were given to you. But you choose to do hard things. Those are choices you can be proud of. So let me ask you directly, because you deserve directness. What is the hard choice that's been sitting in front of you? Not the vague, distant someday choice. The specific one. The one you know the shape of. The one that came to mind while you were watching this. You don't need more time to think about it. You don't need more information. You don't need a better moment. Winston Churchill gave us the only framework we need. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. You are going to stumble. You're going to have days where it seems like the wrong choice. You're going to face moments that test the decision you made today. That is not failure. That is the path. The path is always messy. The path is always uncertain. But the person on the path is always moving forward. And the person sitting on the bench, watching the clock, waiting for the risk to disappear, they are not resting. They are retreating. Every day, quietly, without drama, retreating further from the person they were meant to be. That's not you. So make the call, start the draft, book the appointment, have the conversation, begin. Because every big win you have ever admired began in a moment exactly like this one. Ordinary, uncertain, and absolutely alive with possibility. The choice is yours. It always was.